Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of the Fantasy Flex podcast right here on the Action Network. Dane Martinez, Samantha Praviti, and we are joined by a new member of our team, Mike Triplett. You've seen him covering Saints football from the last 18 years or so with New Orleans Time-Picayune. He's now with New Orleans Football, and so much insights that he will bring to us. We're excited to get his perspective as well. And it's almost serendipitous, guys, because I wanted to start the show this week with Taysom Hill. If you've been a fan of the Fantasy Flex podcast, you know we've had a love-hate relationship with Taysom Hill all season long. Our producer, David, in the back, seems to be the Taysom Hill whisperer, and we've got to start there because my man was accountable for not one, not two, not three, but 4 touchdowns, a great block at the end of the show. I think he recovered a fumble as well. Mr. Do-It-All has been Taysom Hill. Samantha, I was joking with you that I inserted him in my lineup as well. We know our producer David did. What were your reactions right off the bat, Samantha, when Taysom Hill, broke for his 3rd touchdown of the day?
Well, my reaction was to go check if I was facing Taysom Hill in any matchups. And unfortunately I was. It's one of those ones too, that you just get extra points for more things too. So I ended up getting a 55 burger dropped on me. So I will definitely not be recovering from that. There's no Monday Night Miracle tonight for that one, but it was definitely impressive for sure. And we talked about it on Convince Me. Sean Kerner was recommending him as a possible Kyle Pitts sort of plug in if you were missing Pitts. So great call on his part there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mike, this is perfect time to really bring you in because you're in the New Orleans, covering this beat, shall we say. And Samantha and I have been talking about it. Is Taysom Hill a thing or not? Is Taysom Hill a thing only when Andy Dalton is the starting quarterback? Is Taysom Hill a thing only when Alvin Kamara is banged up? Or is Taysom Hill a thing that we can kind of hang our hat on a little bit moving forward? What do you think here, Mike? What can we expect moving forward from the Saints and Taysom Hill?
Well, I'm heartbroken listening to the intro there because I've been like a Taysom Hill truther. Like my previous job at ESPN, I was even trying to influence the projection, saying you guys are shortchanging Taysom Hill. They signed him to a contract extension late last season, 4-year extension worth $40 million to be a tight end and to play this role that he's playing. There was bonuses in there. He'd make $100 million if he became the quarterback, but they're paying him $10 million a year to be an offensive playmaker on this team. And even though I've been screaming that to the rooftops, I had Kyle Pitts in 2 leagues and did not pick up Taysom Hill as a replacement either one. I went with Gerald Everett in my most important league. So I'm regretting that because look, here is the problem with Taysom Hill is it's too sporadic. So when Kyle Pitts comes back, I'm putting Kyle Pitts back in my starting lineup. But I think once you get past the top 5, how many guys do we trust at tight end? Just 5 of them. Then Taysom Hill is a lottery ticket that's not going to go away from this team. Now, he's not going to get volume. I'm pretty surprised he only has 1 target in the passing game this year. Even though they legitimately moved him to tight end, he spent the whole offseason in the meeting room, the practice field as a tight end. But he is absolutely going to continue to get carries and be a part of the 3rd and short package, whether Andy Dalton's the quarterback or whether Jameis Winston's the quarterback, because he does it very well. He's averaging 6 yards a carry for his career, never less than 5.3 yards a carry in any season. That package works, and they will keep using it until a defense proves they can stop it. And they need it. They're a 2-3 team. That was a gotta have it win. They've been trying to establish something on offense. They finally found their run game over the last 2 weeks. He's going to continue to be a big part of it. So it might look, he only had 10 touches yesterday and in that breakout game through a 55 burger with 10 touches. There's going to be games where he only has 4 touches, 5 touches, but I like him to score touchdowns more than anyone outside of the maybe top 4 or 5 tight ends. So probably more of a bye week fill-in than an every week guy, but he's got to be approaching that top 10 because of the upside alone.
No, I like what you say there, Mike, also, right? Because, and I've said this a bunch of times, me and Samantha have talked about it, at tight end, once you get past kind of the elite or the second tier, I believe a lot of them are touchdown dependent. And when are they bringing in Taysom Hill? They're doing it in the red zone and goal line packages and have plays to get him the ball to score touchdowns. I just thought that it was a Sean Payton thing, the reason he got 40 some odd million, and that he was almost like an albatross financially around the Saints at this point. But it looks like Dennis Allen is finding ways to use him as well. Let's dig in to some of the other stories that we have seen after week 5. And Samantha, I will start with you, because even on Green Dot Daily, going into the games last week, we talked about the rookie running back out of Washington that is such a feel-good story that he is not only on the field, but could be the A side of the running back committee in Washington.
Absolutely. I mean, it is crazy to think about. We're talking about him as a potential number 1 back because he was shot 6 weeks ago, not even 6 weeks ago, but he ended up having 9 carries for 22 yards. Gibson only saw 3 carries. He ended up with the better day because he's a little bit more involved in the passing game. But I was already hitting the panic button on Gibson going into the week. I mean, he was RB21 through 4 weeks, but that really doesn't tell the story because his production has just been on the decline since week 1. This is all before Brian Robinson return. So he was already declining. And then we know what it was like going into the season. I mean, it was really trending in the wrong direction for him. Yeah. He's returning punts. I mean, I thought he was going to get demoted to like towel boy at some point, but he literally, I mean, he just clearly lost trust with Ron Rivera and the coaching staff with the fumbles and ball security issues. He had an NFL high 6 fumbles last year. So it definitely felt like it was trending that way. And then of course, Brian Robinson gets shot, things get shaken up, but now he's back. And I think that could definitely eat into a lot of Antonio Gibson's production, and he could be a productive running back, say, like as an RB3.
What about you, Mike? I know you have some thoughts that we're going to get to on other rookie running backs in this class, but what were your thoughts on Brian Robinson? I mean, Antonio Gibson was on special teams. Is this now kind of going to go in that way and direction for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people who are desperate to pick up a running back, and I think there's touches are going to be there, and that's the role you want, I guess, is the first and second down guy. But right. I assume we're probably going to talk about Diami Brown later too. I want nothing to do with anything in this Washington offense. They're not playing well, and they're sharing the workload at running back between 3 guys. We didn't mention J.D. McKissick, who's obviously the pass catcher. And when I talk to the reporters there in Washington and see what they're saying, they don't want to just get rid of Gibson. They want to find a role. Same thing we're talking about Taysom Hill, where they can use his explosion and get him in here and there. Just don't know how any of them can be consistent enough to trust. But certainly, especially now that the bye weeks and the injuries are creeping up, if Brian Robinson is still there, you'll take anything you can get. But I mean, it feels almost like a Darrell Henderson type, where when are you ever going to really trust him?
No, I think that definitely makes sense. And you will learn that I am always about team production as well. I tell Samantha all the time, I'd rather have a sliver of a watermelon than half of a grape. And right now the Commanders offense looks more grape than watermelon, if you get my drift. Mike, I also want to ask you, because we've had breaking news in the NFC South this morning as well, where Carolina Panthers head coach Matt Rule has been terminated, let go after, I believe, like 11-27 over 3 seasons. The man is going to get $40 million to stay home, which is great work if you can get it, in my opinion. But having covered this division for so long, like, what were your thoughts on Carolina? Was it working or not working? Is it Matt Rule's fault? Was it Baker's fault? We see PJ Walker now in, maybe Sam Darnold on the horizon. And my question is about other skill position players in Carolina. Christian McCaffrey, a first-round pick. People believe DJ Moore is an ascending young wide receiver. Now we have potentially a new quarterback on the horizon, inconsistency there, and potentially a new coach, right? A new interim coach who may view how to run the offense differently. Do you have any insights about the Carolina firing and maybe what we could expect the Panthers offense to look like moving forward?
Well, that was the problem, obviously. The one team they beat this season was the Saints. I was there 2 weeks ago. And 2 years in a row now, their defense hasn't been that bad. It was almost a little surprising. They also fired their defensive coordinator, but he had such close ties to Matt Rule. But Steve Wilkes now takes over as a defensive coordinator that he's bringing along with him. I think they're going to lean a lot, obviously, on that defense and Christian McCaffrey. The other news, obviously, being that Baker Mayfield is going to miss time with his injury. But anything has to help. I have DJ Moore in a couple of leagues. I thought maybe Baker Mayfield was going to help him. It's obviously gone in the other direction for him. PJ Walker, believe it or not, actually targeted Robbie Anderson more than DJ Moore, even though DJ Moore had some good numbers with him. So I don't see a lot of reason to think that this can help spark that offense, but nothing can hurt at this point. And who would have thought we'd be kind of hoping Sam Darnold would be back in that offense to spark it? But the news itself was not that surprising. Obviously, we've been monitoring that a little bit because there were even reports in the offseason that they might have their eyes on Sean Payton. I think that'll be hard to pull off. The Saints are going to have to trade him. I don't know if they'll do it to a division rival, but I know they would love for Carolina to express interest and try to drive the price tag up on Sean Payton.
Yeah, I personally think he'll be a replacement for a Mr. McCarthy down the road, but that's a different topic for a different day. Samantha, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. We know CMC, if he's active, which is another question, you're starting him, right? But what about a guy like DJ Moore? Mike made the point, PJ Walker, Temple grad, threw a lot to Robbie Anderson. Temple grad, potentially Sam Darnold on the horizon, right? And he had experience with Robbie Anderson with the Jets, Jets. What do we think about guys like a DJ Moore? Are you downgrading him? Are you sitting DJ Moore in for other wide receivers? Like, how do you expect the impact to be here for these Carolina skill players?
Sure. I mean, to Mike's point, it can't really get worse. It's painful to watch this team, but thankfully I watch Red Zone and I never see them. So it's almost a blessing in disguise. But I actually put DJ Moore in my sit columns for the start sit piece that I do. I mean, he wasn't terrible or anything. He had 9.5 PPR fantasy points, but it's not great. I think that he's like a fringe wide receiver 3. And like I said, I don't think it changes too much. I think PJ Walker could be an upgrade from Baker Mayfield at this point, but it's really not like probably not a palpable upgrade. It's not like we're getting, I don't know, some a lot better. So certainly we'll probably stay in that same range of like the wide receiver 3 range.
Fair enough. Someone much better may come next year by reading your whiteboard over there. Tank for CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I really hope he likes Carolina barbecue.
Yeah, I saw you put that on Twitter. And right now they will be a top, 1, 2, or 3 pick. So we shall see. I actually think that something to consider is a boost up for Robbie Anderson, because all of the quarterbacks for Carolina, either now PJ Walker or Sammy D on the horizon, do have experience with Robbie Anderson. So it could be a boon for him. That's something to pay attention to.